All right, so this is the setup for the other cross sections worksheet. I've got GeoGebra open here. I've opened up the graphics view and the 3D graphics view as well, and I've got the algebra view over here. My input bar is on the bottom. If you're using a different version, your input bar might be built into the algebra view. But all right, let's get started. So we'll start by having a multivariable function to work with. For now, we're going to use f. I'm going to input f of x comma y to tell it that I want a function in x and y. And we're going to use the function x squared minus y squared. And enter. There it is. And so now we have this lovely function over here. Of course, you'll probably be using a different function in class, but this will work for now. And then we want to point on that function. We'll use the same thing we did in the previous worksheet. We'll put p, capital P equals parentheses. The x-coordinate will be 2, the y-coordinate will be 1, and the z-coordinate will be whatever the value of the function is at 2, 1. So f of 2, 1, and that will guarantee that it's on the graph, which it is. There's the point P right there. Looks like at a height of about 3. All right, there's our graph. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a unit vector, and we're going to set up a cross-section in the direction of that vector. So to get a unit vector, we're going to use the following method. First, we'll start with a starting point. We're just going to start with the point directly below that point on the graph. So it'll be, that'll be q equals 2, 1, just a point in the xy plane. There it is. And then we'll make a circle of radius 1 around that. I have to select the graphics view, the two-dimensional graphics view here. And then I see the circle tool. I'm going to open that up and pick the circle with center and radius. So I'm going to click on the point. This will be the center. It's going to ask me the radius. I'm going to tell it the radius is 1. OK. So here's my circle. And now I want a vector that's length 1, so it can start at this point in the center, and it can go out to this circle, which has radius 1, and thus I will have a vector of length 1. I'm going to go under the line tool over here. I'm going to go down and select vector. I'm going to try again. Great, and it wants me to click on 2 points. My starting point will be the center of the circle. My ending point will be somewhere on the circle. I'll wait till it highlights and tells me I'm on the circle. There we go. Now if I go up to the Move tool in the upper left and select that, I should be able to grab this point and drag it around, but I won't be able to drag it off the circle. It's stuck to the circle. Great. So now to get a cross section, we're going to make the plane that contains this vector u and goes vertically. So in order to make it vertical, we'll just include the point directly above that. That's the point P up here on the graph. So if I select 3D graphics, which is where all the 3D constructions are, I get a new menu bar across the top that includes plane through 3 points. So I'll select that. And now I just have to click on the 3 points that I want. I want the 2 points on either end of my vector. So that's Q, and I think I called it A. And then I want the point P above them. When I've clicked all 3, it produces the plane for me. I can go back to Move and drag this point around, and we'll see the plane will rotate as the vector rotates. So this gives me cross sections in any direction that I want. Well, as long as the plane is vertical. And so most of these cross sections we can see look kind of like parabolas. Shouldn't surprise us given how we define the function. But I want to be able to see these cross sections a little better. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a two-dimensional representation of these cross sections by writing a function of one variable that computes these cross sections. Here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to go down to the input box. I'm going to call this g of t, because our variable is not really x or y anymore. It's how far you go in the u direction, or in the direction of this vector u. And so t will be our independent variable. So that equals, and it's going to be the value of f. Well, the x-coordinate is going to start at 2, so we'll start with 2. But then it's going to go t times the x component of u, which we represent as t asterisk. And then we write x, open parentheses, of u, close parentheses. And so if t is 4, that means we go 4 times the x component of u. If t is 7, we go 7 times the x component of u. And we want to do the same thing with the y component. So we'll put a comma, and then we'll add our y component. It starts at 1, and then it goes plus t times the y component of u, with parentheses. And we hit enter, and here's our cross-section graph right here. And we can see as we drag this point around that the cross-section here, the cross-section we can see in the 3D view and the cross-section we see in the 2D view actually do look the same. For instance, kind of flattening out. In fact, it should go to about a straight line about here. The cross-section is a straight line. Lovely. The last thing I want to add is I want to add the actual point P on my 2-dimensional view here. So this point P in the 3-dimensional view corresponds to when t equals 0. So I'll add the point capital R equals parentheses t equals 0, and the height is just the height of the function g, which we defined, g of 0. Now we have this point here for future reference. All right, so we should be pretty happy with this. The one thing I'm not thrilled with is that all this 2-dimensional information is showing up in the 3D graphics view over here. So I might get rid of some of that. I'll just select, well, what should I get rid of? Get rid of the function, the 2-dimensional function, and the point R. I can hold down Control to select multiple things at once. I could even get rid of the circle and the vector QA and the vector U. I'll select all of those. I can go to Options, or I can right-click, or excuse me, I can go to Edit or right-click and pick Object Properties. And I can go to Advanced and deselect 3D graphics to make them not appear there. And close that. Great. Now the only stuff in 3D graphics is the plane, the point, and the... Oh, that's fun. Oh, I had all of them selected. Well, let's undo that. Control Z. It's a great shortcut to know. All right, let's unselect. Now I can grab this point, and all I see in the 3D graphics is my original graph, the point, and the plane. All right, the last thing to do is just save this. So we go up to the File menu. We select Save. Again, in some versions, you need to click on a little folder icon to tell it that you want to save on your device instead of in the cloud. You do not need to save it in the cloud. You do not need to set up an account. Instead, you decide where you want to save it, and you type in an appropriate file name, like Other Cross Sections is a good file name since that's the name of the... And then you save it. And that's all you need to do. You should now be ready for the activity in class.